Dear students, we are going to learn a new module today that is about indemnity. You might have heard the terms indemnity and guarantee. What I am going to do in this module, I will cover indemnity and the next module will be guarantee. So you will get an idea and I am going to explain about indemnity. So let us go into the details. Now, contracts of indemnity and guarantee. These are special acts under the Indian Contract Act 1872. Contract of indemnity is to compensate one person for the loss of another. Say, for example, we have insurance cover, health insurance, personal insurance, all this. These are contracts of indemnity. Why we are taking an insurance policy? If something happens to our life, our legal heirs will get that compensation from the insurance company. Now, contract of guarantee is a third-party agreement to pay the debt if the debtor is at default, is not paying back. So here guarantee is different. See, for example, I am taking a loan from a bank. The bank will insist that two guarantors should be there. That meaning, if I am not able to repay the loan to the bank, that amount the guarantors have to give. So guarantee meaning it's taking somebody's loss. If they are at default in paying, they are taking the assurance that we will pay. They are giving the guarantee for that contract. Indemnity is somebody is giving the assurance that if something happens, they will compensate the loss. So these are the terms, related terms, indemnity and guarantee. Now, contracts between principal and agent, that is a contract of indemnity. Whatever the agent is doing, principal will be liable for that. Loss of fixed deposit received. So here you have to do that. Bank also will take the indemnity. If the fixed deposit value is up to 5,000, they will take the indemnity. It's only in a white sheet because the applicant or the depositor is going and telling that I lost the receipt. So they will take it in a plain white sheet if it's up to only 5,000. But if it's above 5,000, they will take it in a stamp paper. Then amount exceeding 5,000, stamp paper indemnity is compulsory for the banks. So indemnity, again if somebody will trace that bank fixed deposit and come to the bank, so they can avoid all the problems related to that. So that is why they are taking the indemnity in the case of lost fixed deposit receipts. Now contracts of insurance, how it's related to indemnity. Insurance company is the indemnifier. When I am taking an insurance policy from an insurance company, that if I am taking it from LIC, Life Insurance Corporation, Life Insurance Corporation is the indemnifier. They are giving me the guarantee that or indemnity that they will compensate my loss. So policy holder is the indemnified party. So if I am taking the LIC policy, I am the indemnified party. So indemnifier will compensate the loss, that is the insurance company, and indemnified party will get the benefit. If I am taking the insurance policy, I will get the benefit. Now the definition, section 124 of the Indian Contract Act defines contract of indemnity as an agreement by which one party promises to save the other from loss caused to him by the conduct of the promiser himself or by the conduct of any other person is called a contract of indemnity. Either your own risk or at the problem or the problem related to a third party. So that is the contract of indemnity. Now conditions for the contract of indemnity. Two parties and capacity of parties to contract. What are all the conditions? See, conditions for everything. So two parties should be there and capacity of parties to the contract. Capacity of parties meaning it should be not be a minor, insolvent, bankrupt, or any person who's sentenced by the court. They are all incapable of entering into contract. Drunken person, the person's taking psychiatric treatment, all they are incapable of entering into contract. So in the contract of indemnity also minimum two parties should be there and they are capable of entering into contract. The promiser or indemnifier should be there. One person is giving the assurance, I will compensate the loss. The promisee or the indemnified or the indemnity holder will be there. One beneficiary should be there. Then promise to pay for the losses. That is the basic thing. Now express conditions for the contract of indemnity. What are the conditions? Express or implied. So here it can be an express agreement. Anything happens, I am giving you that it is an express, immediately I will do. Whereas implied, what is implied indemnity? See, something happens to the employee at the workplace. There is no express indemnity, but there is an implied indemnity. During working hours, if something happens to an employee in the workplace, the employer has to compensate. Now loss must be incurred. So if you want to indemnify that, loss must be incurred. Then lawful object and consideration. You have done something legally. If you're doing something illegal, you cannot compensate. And consideration should be there. See, in the agreement of indemnity, that amount of consideration is mentioned. When you're taking an insurance policy, the compensation or the consideration is mentioned. So that is easy to identify the compensation. Now, rights of an indemnity holder. As per section 125 of the Indemnity Act, rights of an indemnity holder are listed below. To recover the damages sustained by him. In the process of indemnification, if he has incurred some losses, he can incur that. Now, to cover the expenses incurred by him. So, damages he can recover, and the expenses, whatever he has incurred also, he can recover. Now, rights of an indemnifier. As per section 125 of the Indemnity Act, to cover all damages sustained by him. See, if it's a fire, house is set on fire, or then a fire is reported, it's damaged, the go down, business premises or the house itself. So what they will do, he will call the fire police, he will call the fire personnel, he will call the neighbors or somebody, workers, to pour water, to reduce the damage. He will incur some expenses. He can claim all that with the proof. To cover all the expenses he has incurred, whatever the expenses he has to show with the proper vouchers, and he can claim. And to recover the legal expenses, if the indemnifier is not ready to give the compensation, he has to go to the court. So what all legal expenses he has incurred, that also he can recover. Now, duties and liabilities of indemnifier. Now, the duties meaning to indemnify all damages, because damages and expenses they can claim. So, indemnify the cost, that is the expenses. Now, indemnify the amount payable in case of compromise. See, instead of going to the court, they are coming for a compromise petition. So, indemnify the amount payable in case of a compromise. Now, duties and liabilities of the indemnity holder. The person, the beneficiary, to abide all the conditions of contract of indemnity. See, for example, if you're taking an insurance policy, after that you cannot commit suicide and you cannot claim, that legal heirs cannot claim compensation. Abide by the conditions. It's only for natural death we can claim the compensation. Abide all the conditions. Take all precautions as an ordinary person will take in the usual circumstances. Then if you are not able to avoid the loss, then only you can go for indemnity. Should not violate the terms and conditions of the contract. Whatever contracts mentioned, see, in a contract between principal and agent, we have to remember that always that condition should be satisfied. Whatever the principal has insisted the agent to do, that he has to do that, and try to avoid losses. We cannot incur losses thinking that somebody will compensate. Try to reduce the losses. Act as an ordinary person, how he will behave in the usual situation. Try to avoid the loss. Now, types of contracts of indemnity. Broad indemnification. So, what is broad indemnification? To cover all costs including third-party claims. When we are taking an insurance, car insurance, indemnity is including third parties, because when you are taking the vehicle to the road, sometimes third party will be injured. So, we have to get the compensation from the insurance company. Now, intermediate indemnification, to cover the damage caused by the promisers and promisees' actions, because here third party claims are not involved or not covered. See, if you anything, third party claims, only the promiser and promisee. If anything happened to, see, in the case of principal and agent, this intermediate indemnification, third party claims are not involved. Between principal and agent, if something happened, they can claim the indemnity. Now, limited indemnification is the third one, to cover only losses caused by the action of the promiser. Promisee and third parties are not covered. In the case of principal and agent, they are telling that if something happened with the principal, then that only will be covered in the indemnity. Wrong advertisement the promiser is giving, then it will be covered under, only that claim will be covered by the limited indemnification. Limited meaning promisee's actions are excluded. Similarly, third party's actions are also excluded. So it's only limited indemnification. Now, types of indemnity. Express indemnity is there. Express indemnity meaning written indemnity. When you are getting the contract itself, it's clearly mentioned. Example, insurance contracts, agency or construction contracts. When you are buying a property, when you're buying a land or anything from a builder or BDA, Bangalore Development Authority, terms and conditions are clearly mentioned. It's written there. Implied indemnity meaning not written but decided based on the circumstances. See, for example, when something happens to an employee in the workplace during working hours, that's very important. Outside working hours, employer is not liable to compensate. But during working hours, if something happened to the employee in the workplace, there is an implied indemnity to compensate the employee. See, for lift breakdown, something happened to the employee, employer has to compensate. Though there is no written agreement, it's the implied indemnity. So this is what I wanted to explain in this module. Happy learning. Thank you.